When someone is always in your mind without any communication, it can feel strangely powerful and confusing at the same time, as if their presence has moved from the outside world and settled inside your thoughts, living silently in the back of your mind and the center of your heart. And you may find yourself wondering why a person who is no longer active in your life, who no longer texts, calls, or appears in front of you, can still occupy so much space in your inner world. Why their memory feels more real than the people standing right in front of you. Why their name quietly echoes inside you when everything around you is silent. And psychology tells us that this is not random. It is not a coincidence, and it is not a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of a deep emotional, psychological, and sometimes even energetic connection that has not yet been understood or released, because the human brain does not simply forget meaningful connections. It stores them, protects them, and sometimes even replays them like a never ending movie when the emotions attached to them are intense enough. When someone makes a deep impact on you, whether through love, comfort, inspiration, pain, or confusion, they do not just live in your memory, they become a part of your emotional blueprint. And even if time passes, distance grows, and communication disappears, the brain continues to revisit them because your subconscious is still trying to process what that person meant to you. And this is called emotional imprinting, where a strong emotional experience leaves a permanent mark in the mind, making it impossible to simply erase their presence, which is why they resurface in your thoughts, in the quiet moments, in your dreams, in random songs, familiar places, or even in new people who somehow remind you of them. And often, this constant thinking is linked to something deeper that was left unfinished, something that never reached a natural or emotional conclusion. Unspoken words, unanswered questions, unresolved feelings, and the mind does not like unfinished stories. So it keeps returning to the same person, the same moments, the same feelings, trying to find a resolution that may never come from them, but must come from within you. And this is why, even after long periods of silence, the connection can feel alive. Because emotionally, the story was never truly ended, it was just paused without explanation. And when the heart does not understand an ending, it clings to hope, memories, and imagination, filling the silence with thoughts of what could have been, what should have been, and what might still be. And at times, this deep thinking can even feel spiritual, as if something beyond logic is keeping you connected. And psychology explains that strong bonds create neural pathways in the brain, pathways that do not disappear easily. And each time you think of them, those pathways become stronger, reinforcing their presence in your mind, which is why it can feel like the more you try to forget them, the more they appear, as if the mind is playing a quiet trick on you, reminding you of what once meant something. Sometimes this constant presence of a person in your mind is the result of attachment, an emotional dependency formed during moments when they made you feel seen, valued, safe, or even simply distracted from your own pain. And when they left, the emotional security they provided was suddenly removed, leaving a void. And the mind does not like emptiness, so it fills that space with their memory, replaying their words, their smile, their personality, as a way to bring temporary comfort to yourself, even if that comfort is mixed with sadness. And sometimes the reason they stay in your mind is because they represent something your heart desires, something your life lacks: love, understanding, connection, excitement, or meaning. And in this way, they become a symbol more than a person, a reflection of what you are longing for. And your thoughts are not really about them, but about the version of life you wanted with them. And that is why it is so hard to let go, because letting go of them can feel like letting go of a dream, a future, a version of yourself that only existed when they were around. There is also the possibility of a subconscious or energetic connection, a bond that goes beyond words, where two people are linked through shared feelings, intense emotions, or spiritual alignment. And many people experience thinking about someone at the very moment that person is thinking of them, or dreaming of someone, only to later discover that something significant happened in their life around that same time, And some call this coincidence, while others call it intuition or telepathic energy, where the mind and heart pick up on signals that words are unable to carry. And when this happens repeatedly, it can feel like the connection is alive in an unseen world, even though no messages are exchanged in the physical world. However, it is also important to understand that sometimes the mind holds on to someone not because they are meant to be in your future, but because they were meant to teach you something. And until that lesson is understood, accepted, and integrated into your life, the memory of that person continues to return like a silent teacher, reminding you of your growth, your pain, your patterns, and your strength. And it could be teaching you to value yourself, to recognize red flags, to demand respect, to become emotionally stronger, or to understand the kind of love you truly deserve. And in this way, thinking of them becomes a step in your own personal evolution, not a sign that you must go back to them, but a sign that you must move forward with awareness. There's also an inner battle that takes place when someone is in your mind constantly without communication, a battle between the logical mind and the emotional heart, where the mind says that it is over, that the silence is your answer, that you must move on, but the heart refuses to accept distance as a true end because the feelings were real and the experiences were real, and the heart does not understand words like over or done. It only understands connection. And when that connection remains unhealed, it continues to pull that person into your thoughts, especially when you are alone, vulnerable, nostalgic, or searching for meaning in your life. And during those times, their memory can feel like a comfort and a torture at the same time, warm yet painful, familiar yet distant, as if your soul is holding on to a ghost of what once was, unable to let go, but also unable to return. And the universe, in its mysterious ways, sometimes allows this to happen, not to punish you, but to make you aware of the depth of your feelings, the power of your emotions, and the truth of your inner world. Because someone being constantly on your mind is proof that you feel deeply, that you are capable of forming meaningful bonds, and that your heart is alive, even if it has been hurt. And while this experience can feel overwhelming, it also carries a hidden message that your love, your connection, your emotions, and your soulless energy are far stronger than you ever realized. And when you finally reach the moment where you no longer think of them all the time, where the silence no longer hurts, and their memory becomes just another part of your past instead of your present, you will understand that you did not lose them. You learned from them, you grew from them, and you carried their lesson with you into a new chapter of life, where love does not hurt, where peace is familiar, where your mind is no longer haunted by silence and your heart is finally free. Because sometimes when someone is always in your mind without any communication, it does not mean they are meant to return. It means they were meant to change you. And that in itself is a powerful and unforgettable form of connection.